What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online as usual. Today, I'm going to talk about the transparency that we're getting on a number of different platforms, what I'd like to see done differently. So, one of the reasons that I'm doing this YouTube channel and also, put together a Discord for us to talk about this stuff is it's a new industry, right? I mean, some of the platforms have been around for 3 or 4 years. Ground Floor, I think, is actually maybe closer to 10. But for the most part, we're at the beginning stages for a lot of these platforms. They might be a couple years in. The industry in general is really trying to figure stuff out. And I think that, one, I mean, part of the reason I'm here is I think there's a lot of opportunity to make money because of that, because it's inefficient. But I think we also have some, we're at a point in time where we have the ability to shape it to where, if a lot of us investors, give our input, especially on some of the smaller sites as they're starting out, I think that we could make it a lot more user friendly for us. And so, what I'm going to talk about today is the transparency or lack of transparency that we're getting on a lot of the sites. Um, I happen to have Arc 7 open. I don't think that they're any better or worse than any of the others. In fact, I think they're doing at least one thing that I like. The main thing that I have an issue with on almost every platform is they're not giving um, on property, on the properties where you can invest that they already are operating, they're just not providing good historic financial information. And even on the ones that they're buying ones that have already been operating, like, at a bare minimum, I always want to get, trailing 12 financials, which is just the last 12 months of financials. And if it's a property that's been operating, they should have that, right? And that should be bare minimum. When I buy a property in real life and it's, a multifamily property, it's got people, it has leases in place. I want a rent roll that says, these are the leases that are currently in place, and I want the trailing 12 so I can see, well, what were the expenses for the last 12 months? What was the actual, you can see some turnover. Now, obviously, if it's been operating longer than that, I'd like to see the past years as well. But I think that standard of trailing financials is something that, as investors on all these platforms, we should just be hounding them to give us. So let me give you some examples. So I'm looking on Arc Sevens. So they have their, where you can buy them when they're before they're sold out, but then they also have this trading of ones that are, have been going on for a while. And so I've been keeping track with this. In general, they're not providing, their returns are a little bit too low on a cash on, the cash on cash return basis. Although, every once in a while they have one that is close to me being okay with it. On that basis, I think their total returns might end up being pretty good, but I want a pretty good current yield on most of these, especially because it's new. I'm taking additional risk because it's new. But they have ones where you can trade sort of like on Lofty, right? Somebody's trying to sell. And so far, with these bid asks, there's very little discount, but I'm starting to see a little bit of a discount. Not huge, but a little, right? So, and let's see. I want to try to find one that's actually um, I don't think it really matters. I'm not analyzing this property for the property's sake, but you can see, let's see, trading at $95. It originally came out at 100, right? So, okay, we were buying this. Oh, okay, wait a minute, what's happening there? Okay, right now it's 97.50. I don't know why that said 95, or did I just misread it? Maybe it's just said 97.50. But so, okay, you've got a small discount from the 100. It's not huge, but you're starting to get there. And I think over time, we saw this on Lofty. It took some of them a while to get to really decent discounts. But so this one's been operating for a while, right? They've had it. Um, I don't know how, so since July, right? It's been for sale on the platform. It's been 100% occupied, so they show you, the occupancy through that whole period of time. You can look at this is actually something we don't even get this on a lot of the platforms where they give you a chart with the historical returns. Lofty doesn't have this; they just have whatever last month's was. I'd love to see this, so I think this is a good thing. This is something they're doing right. But this is just saying what they've distributed, right? And so I can look at, they have, and then they give you this table of, okay, December 2024 operating results. Well, if they're giving you this information every month, they have it. So there's just no reason to not just present this. And I thought, oh, is it this chart? No, they just give us this weird little thing to see where the expenses are. But so they're putting this together every single month. Why not let me see the trailing info, right? So that's driving me nuts. They're not doing it. This, I thought about this because I was looking at the collab properties. If you watched my video yesterday, uh, what's happening here? Why isn't this moving? There we go. Did it freeze? Nope. So like I was looking at this 33 mine property, and when I looked in the this is actually for a different property, but when I looked at the the SEC info for it, it looks like they had been operating it for 3 years. But when I click on learn more and want to look, on at their property documents and see, okay, they actually didn't have any trailing financials in their documents. And then if you looked at, let's see, property financials, they gave you 1/4 of financials, right? I mean, this is um, if they've been operating this for 3 years, I want to know. I want to know what they've been doing, right? So it's one thing, and one of the reasons that I was comfortable and I bought a little bit of this is they're saying, okay, this projection is based on if they have more than 12 months, for their 12 months cash. So they've been returning this amount, as long as you trust that, right? Which for the most part, I take these platforms at their word until I am giving a good reason to believe otherwise. Um, but I'm not putting a ton of money on it on any of them yet. But as I get more comfortable with some, I'm going to put more and more. I made the absolute minimum investment I could on this site yesterday, but I'm trying to. I think it's one that has potential, so I'm trying to learn as I go. But again, so this is one that I'd love to just. They have to have that data. Just give it to us, right? Like let me make an informed decision. How have you been operating this for the last 3 years? Are there certain trends that I need to, that I can look at and worry about? Or has it been improving every single year? And maybe, okay, this is your average, but I actually think I'm going to do better, right? I mean, I don't understand why they're not doing that. Mogul is a different case because you're investing on here. And I'm just going to go through each of them real quick and then let you know what I think that they should be doing. Like, I'm going to give you an example of one of the co-owners that I think is doing a fantastic job. Um, Great. Opens that. So like this is one that I bought a piece of. It's only had a couple months. I can look in my portfolio and see what I got paid on it each month, but and they're not selling this for anyone in the, so you can't buy into this anymore. So I don't know. I did want to point out because I had some people ask, they do have a new property up, so I'm gonna do an analysis of this one sometime in the next week. They don't have, well, I think I am. They don't have it in their analysis tab, which means I don't get all the info. But I've noticed if I wait until they get this out, um, you still have time to get into it probably, but they seem to take a little while doing that. But so I'm gonna check that one out. Um, but like I said, I mean, they're doing something different, right? I do want to show you. I like their. Um, let's see what we have here. When they're doing their annual projected returns. I mean, I think this looks great. I'd much rather see this than just see. They give you unlevered year cash on cash. So they're trying to give you all the numbers that I'd normally look at if and I'm going to try to predict for myself for a property. Hopefully, if they do get to the point where you can buy these later on, which they say they're working on, um, then maybe, hopefully they provide this data. But at the moment, they're, like I said, they're a little bit different. There's no trading after the fact. Um, so that's not there. I'm just going to close these other windows. Ground floor, again, it's another one that's quite a bit different. I always forget to say this. I do have links in the descriptions below to the ones that I'm investing in currently. Um, I know I need to add a couple because I don't think I have Saul's Lot still in my default. It just auto populates. So I got to add Saul's Lot and Collab because now I do have a small investment on each. But Just because I invest on any of these platforms doesn't mean that you should, right? Do your own due diligence. Oh, and please, did I already say please like and subscribe? Try and get that in there early because I always forget to do it. But yeah, I'm just going to go through the ones that I'm on and that I think, ground floor again is different because you buy it up front. You're getting paid an interest rate. But even them, they have I really like a lot of the stuff that they're doing. But you can click in here and you can see, okay, these are the updates as the money's lent out. You normally get one on the loan. Let's see if we have ones that mature a little. Yeah, let's see this one. Oh, so this is one that's extended. This is the only one that I have so far that they've identified that may not be performing. But let me see if I can get some on this one. Ooh, where's the little updates on this one? This is the only one at the moment. The borrower intends to list it for sale. Okay, so that's kind of old, right? Like, so they could do a little better job too. I've had a whole bunch of these pay off. So I don't know. I'm feeling better and better about how this one works. Yeah, I've bought 100, 14 have paid off, 86 are, going. Only one is one they've identified as maybe it's a problem. When I get around to it, I'm definitely just gonna start putting bigger chunks of capital on this one because I feel pretty good about it. But again, you want to do your own due diligence. It's also I expect one of the lowest returns out of all the platforms. I think if you're doing it right, you should be able to beat this on a lot of the ones where you're getting equity on average, right? But I mean, provided you pick good properties, you're not having a lot of losses. Um, but I think for me, because you're getting super wide diversification and it's a debt product, I think the risk adjusted return is something that works for me. And you want to think about that for yourself, look at your own numbers, figure out if you agree with that or not. Don't just do it because I do. And then Lofty, right? If you click into one of their properties, um, their financials tab, again, they're just giving you 1 month, and they're just annualizing 1 month, and they don't even really make it super clear that that's what they're doing, right? That this is, I mean, if you look on their little eyes, or you look at the rental yield, like it'll outline it for you, but it's really, this says annual, right? And if you're not really paying attention, you might think this is the last year, but no, this is just the last month annualized. Um, but this is one of the things that I think is good about Lofty, but good and bad, is you have to pay a lot of attention. So, for example, the co-owner of this um, property does a fantastic job of giving us data. This is his, you get to this by clicking on the Documents tab. You get this. Okay, it looks like we don't have very much data, but it's because he's got it all organized in folders, and these don't have a date in here. But so, like, I can click in here. I can look at mortgage statements. Every single month he's putting those in. I can look at the bank statements, both for his operating reserve and for the operation. So he's got two different mortgage statements. I'm not sure why he ended up doubling it, having twice as many this month, but every month he's got two. But what I'd really like to see, and what I think his is a good example of, is he's putting in, and he does year to date financials. I think it's probably because I think that's actually what Lofty has asked him to do. I prefer trailing 12, right? Like, because especially if you only have 3 months or something, I'd rather have the last 12 months and then each full year. But this I think is more than we're getting on almost anything, right? And so I can actually, this is, right now, this is actually what would be a trailing 12 because it is the last 12 months, right? And I think it should be a minimum. There's no reason they can't give us this information on every single property on every platform. And so I think it's something that every time any of the platforms does a Q&A that you're involved in, you should ask for it. Anytime there's an opportunity to ask for a feature somewhere, this is, it just seems to me, I'd never buy an operating property in real life if they didn't give me this info. I say that. So, and then here's a little me backpedaling. When I worked in commercial real estate and we were looking at apartment buildings and any sort of like truly commercial stuff that is always an investment. 100% of the time I'm getting this information. As you move down into smaller properties, if you're buying a fourplex, for example, one to four units, duplex, triplex, fourplex, single family home, but that's used as an investment, very rarely will those sellers have a trailing 12 to give you. And so I think, and I think because of that distinction and because I've worked on both sides of that, I really think about if they can't give you this information, it's really like mom and pop style investing, right? And it's where I have to put together all my own projections and figure out on my own what I think it's going to do. And normally when that happens, it's a more inefficient market, and it's a big part of the reason that I actually moved down to play more into that space. I started my career in commercial and actually moved into residential investment property. It is more fragmented, it's more inefficient, and because of that, there's more opportunities to make profits. But if I'm investing in deals that I can't go see, that I'm not running, and that especially that somebody's operating and I'm buying into their operations, um, I don't want to buy into somebody's deal if they're a mom and pop investor, right? I want a professional co-owner that is transparent and give me some great info. And so this, I think, is very close to what I think, we should demand as a standard from platforms and from co-owners. Um, this is a lot more what you see on Lofty when you look in their Dropbox. You get this transaction statement, and you can see this was put in 13 days ago, but it's from all the way back in November. It is in a format that is completely useless, right? I mean, you can't look at this and try to understand anything. You have to convert it into that, a regular P&L format if you want to use it. I do look at this operating reserve chart, and this isn't every single one. But then, like, if you go into these folders, there's nothing here, right? I mean, there's a repairs folder, but the last input in here was 10 months ago. Um, Move out inspection photos. What is this from? I think these are even older. Yeah. This is not, this is a property that had been managed and a new manager took over, and I think in November, or definitely at least in December, and there hasn't been like a single piece of financial information included as far as like I know there's a renovation going on, and this is basically the standard, like, and I think some pressure should be put on co-owners to be more like this second one or this first one, right? But I also think more pressure should be put on the platforms to demand this of, for if it's Lofty, to require this level of transparency. If you want to keep your property listed on their platform, you should there should be some standards, right? And some standard reporting standards, just like how stock markets have, right? Like they want to be the Nasdaq of real estate. Well, the Nasdaq makes you have certain financial reporting every year, and I'd like to see that, right? I think that's one of the things that's kept me from really going all in on a lot of properties. Is I'm buying now ones that are just, I do have some of this one, but like if you look at, mostly I'm just buying ones on here that are a deep discount to their real world value, because it's really hard to figure out exactly how the financials are. And, if I get a good pop in value, like I did in this one, I'm just starting to sell them, right? Every time this one gets to 32 bucks, I sell more. Um, Really somewhere over 30. I think I've sold some at 31. But, if it's hard to make a long-term investment decision when you don't get good data on how it's actually operating, right? Because if I'm just looking at, um, I'm looking at this property, I see uh, the financials and what it did last year, or I see what it did this, like, if I see what it did last month, I mean, it's just not helping me. So I guess what I'm doing today is I'm just encouraging everybody. So I've gotten in touch with a whole bunch of you now, and I really appreciate that. Please keep, giving me comments on the channel, or reach out in the Discord, or I've got direct messages from a bunch of you, or emails. Um, I think that the more we can think about these things together and work together and sort of uh, have sort of a unified front in some of the platforms, especially the smaller ones where you still have, I think if we did this on Arrived Homes right now, they would just laugh and be like, "Yeah, our business model is what it is, and it's, we're going forward with it." But I think the ones where you've got, it's still like Lofty. I mean, they are in their Discord and they listen to complaints, and they don't always change things, but they are at least willing to listen and discuss. Um, and I think that they are planning on providing some better historical data. I think it's going to look like that ARC 7 chart that I showed you in the beginning, where it's just showing you, what it paid out each month. But I mean, that's a huge improvement from what we have at the moment. I still think, if you're invested in deals with co-owners, we should push for this kind of standard, right? Like, I mean, that's one of the things. We have the ability to vote on stuff. There's no reason not to ask for more and more transparency from because if they're doing their job right, they have these sort of books. I mean, they should. It's like it's just the standard in the industry, and so if they don't, it's just really worrisome. Like, hopefully you're keeping track of your income and expenses. And yeah, I think getting to see the bank statements too is even better, right? Like, bank statements, mortgage statements. Basically, we're co-owners, right? So we should get all the data that anybody else has about any of these properties. So like to encourage people to push for that. But getting some of it up front before we even buy, I think is even better. Um, that's it. I think that I'm going to get off my soapbox for today. I am going to have do an interview tomorrow with. It is actually this co-owner. Hopefully, I'll have it out by later tomorrow evening. But if you have any last minute questions you want me to ask, again, feel free to DM those. And yeah, that is everything. Until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.